Welcome into the Solo Shot Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Dom Manna. Happy Solo Shot Saturday, everyone. And I was reluctant to do this when we had our May recap heading into June. I put Jose Ramirez on the American League side of the set as opposed to Aaron Judge. But Aaron Judge has not only had an amazing May, but he has had a historic June. And he had to get added to the set as a baseball fan, as a guy who just loves the game. Aaron Judge has been absolutely on fire. All rise for the guy who is the top vote getter in the American League, who currently, I'm sure you've seen the graphics, has better stats right here as we sit on July 6th than 2021 National League MVP Bryce Harper. He is having an all-time season and has the chance, I think, especially with the lineup protection he has with Juan Soto, as well as the pressure of already having done this before and broken Maris's record in pinstripes, that he has a very good chance of hitting 60-plus home runs again. So Aaron Judge, absolute menace, one of the best players in baseball, and when he is healthy, it is truly a treat to watch. So Aaron Judge had to get some love from me. He'll be on the set here in July as we head into the All-Star Game festivities next week. He won't be competing in the Home Run Derby, and I saw some people giving him some backlash for it. He doesn't need to, man. 2017, as a rookie, he stepped into the ring of the Home Run Derby, and he won the whole dang event. Aaron Judge has to stay healthy for the Yankees. They don't know if they're going to have Juan Soto for the next decade or the next 6 months. So Aaron Judge is doing everything he can to stay healthy and to be productive for the Yankees. And while the team has struggled as of late, Aaron Judge's numbers are absolutely video game like. A guy that has already 32 home runs here on July 6th and in the 80s and RBIs, 6 WAR season. Just truly one of the best players in baseball, and someone that you definitely can't ignore, batting .310 on the season. He might just go out and win a triple crown with Luis Ariz staying in the National League. But we'll see what happens going forward with Aaron Judge. He's definitely on his way to a home run title. He's definitely on his way to serious MVP consideration if he can stay healthy all the way. But the Yankees last night, as an aside, you can see I'm rocking my Red Sox shirt tonight. This is one of the most electric games of the season for me as a Red Sox fan. Bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, full count. Masataka Yoshida hits a game-tying home run in the Bronx off of Clay Holmes. Red Sox go on to win in extra innings. Ceddanne Rafaela with a 2-run home run to lead off the top of the 10th. Absolutely amazing. This team, I've been saying it, that I'm reserving my heartstrings until they're still in it in August. This team's trying their darnest to get me to care, to get me to believe, to get me to be all in. And I hope that through the All-Star festivities and the trade deadline, the Red Sox make a few moves to show that they actually want to win. It was kind of a funny dichotomy last night, seeing the Yankees who had upped their payroll this season and the Red Sox who had cut their payroll, and seeing one team that's trending down and one team that is trending up. It is just extremely fun to be a Red Sox fan right now. And this is about all I could have asked for this season, is to just watch competitive games. And the Red Sox have more than delivered on that part. And I hope that they are able to continue that in the second half of the season and until August and maybe even September, October. But we talked about these two teams in the AL East. This was the Orioles month. Don't let that detail fall by the wayside. The Orioles have not only been one of the best teams in baseball this season, but they've been able to, with the Yankee struggles, overtake first place in the American League East. They're currently up 3 games over New York, 7.5 over Boston. And the Orioles broke a record for most home runs hit in a month by a team with over 60 home runs in the month of June. They were absolutely slugging it. A very young, talented team. And you're thinking, oh, Gunnar Henderson's having a career year. Adley Rutschman is great. who led the Orioles in home runs and all of baseball for that matter in the month of June? Anthony Santander. Now, Anthony Santander did not end up starting the All-Star game. Stephen Kwan and Juan Soto ended up outvoting him. Juan Soto was no surprise. Stephen Kwan was a nice surprise for me. Uh, but Anthony Santander has just flat out been one of the best producers in the game the last couple seasons, and he just does not get any credit. Just a calm, cool, quiet producer in this offense. He has 22 home runs this season, and 13 of them just came in the month of June. This is a guy who has 3 straight seasons now of 20 plus home runs. In 2022, he had 33 home runs and 89 RBIs. Last season, he had 28 home runs and 95 RBIs. And this season, 22 home runs and 56 RBIs already here in July. The batting average, he's not going to hit you for a high average. He's not going to Stephen Kwan yet, but he's going to hit somewhere in the 225 to 250 range. And with that kind of power and that kind of run producing, being a switch hitter, it's a lot of fun to have a guy like that, a steady Eddie, in this young Orioles lineup, a guy who gives professional at bats and is not costing them an arm and a leg. It's super exciting for the Orioles, and their fans should be really excited right now. The American League East, I was talking about it being a gauntlet and being the best division top to bottom in baseball. The Rays have taken a significant step back with all their injuries. The Blue Jays have underperformed expectations and then some. The Red Sox have over kind of achieved at this point, and the Yankees and the Orioles are right where I expected them to be. Orioles leading the Yankees in the division, but both teams being legit threats in the American League. It has been really fun to watch. Gunnar Henderson, while he was mic'd up on Sunday Night Baseball, announced that he will be competing in the Home Run Derby. This is a guy who's having a historic season at the shortstop position so far in 2024, and one of the best young players in the game. There's so much to be excited for as an Orioles fan, and the fact that Jackson Holliday has not been a X factor for them in the first half when a lot of people expected him to make the team out of spring training and to win Rookie of the Year. There's a lot to be thankful for as an Orioles fan. But the thing that is the most crazy to me is that the Orioles currently have the most players with double-digit home runs this season. They have 7 different players with 10-plus home runs. We're talking about guys like Jordan Westberg and Ryan O'Hearn, Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, Anthony Santander. This team is deep. This team is productive. This team does not quit. And this team has something that they were severely missing last season, and that is a true ace in Corbin Burns. I know they've had some injuries to the back end of the rotation. Guys like John Means have not been around, but this Orioles squad is super talented. And while it's a shame that they do not have Felix Bautista in the back of that bullpen, Craig Kimbrell has turned a corner, and this is a guy who is positioning himself with Billy Wagner's trajectory with the writers to get in by the baseball writers to the Hall of Fame, where Craig Kimbrell puts together a couple nice seasons here at the end of his career. He's going to finish his career top 5 all time in saves with an ERA well under 3, with both the Hoffman and Rivera Reliever of the Year awards, a Rookie of the Year, a championship, and one of 13 relievers all time with over 1,000 strikeouts. And if you're talking purely strikeouts as a reliever, because many relievers were starters at one point, Craig Kimbrell has a very good shot and is on pace to finish his career with the most strikeouts ever as a reliever, coming into as not a starter. And it's really exciting. He's someone that the first 8 to 10 seasons of his career, I was seeing Hall of Fame. And it was a guy that I would collect his cards and watch his career pretty closely. He came over to my Red Sox, and the wheels kind of fell off for a little bit there, but he's turning back around. He has 19 saves so far this season. It's a guy that has the chance, with how good this Orioles team is, to put together a 35-40 save season this year and really boost his case for the Hall. So really just great. The Orioles, their month was June. I know there's a lot of other teams that have been exciting. Um, but when we're talking the American League East, when we're giving Aaron Judge's flowers, when we're getting a little excited as a Red Sox fan, we have to remember who the top dog is in this division, who was a 100-win team last year, a team that I picked when the playoffs started to win the World Series. I might have been a year early on them. This Orioles team is really fun, and I'm excited to see the new ownership be aggressive at the deadline and maybe get another piece to that bullpen, to that lineup, or to that rotation to really take that next step. Because as cool as guys like Cole Irvin are, this Orioles team needs the starting pitching depth to make this run that they're more than capable of doing. Now, I talked about Gunnar Henderson being in the home run derby. I talked about a lot of guys hitting home runs. Major League Baseball has instituted new rules for this year's home run derby, which Alec Boehm of the Phillies has announced that he's going to be in the derby, which was kind of surprising for me as a guy that doesn't have a lot of power in his regular season statistics. But the 2024 home run derby, which will be at Arlington in Texas, is going to be, I think, a real test for baseball figuring out what they want to do with this event going forward, because they're trying to get more people to participate because some people don't want to. It's a very tiresome event. Players that have hit a lot of balls in the home run derby have then started the second half off a little slow because they're tired in a time where they're supposed to be resting. So what they're doing now is, instead of having a bracket format from the beginning, they're going to have all 8 participants go. They're going to have the 4 top home run hitters advance to the next round. So it doesn't matter if the top 2 rounds face each other in the first round. They're both going to advance to the second round of play. But I think the most interesting thing is they're putting them on a pitch count. So they have 3 minutes and 40 pitches. They get 3 bonus outs, and they continue hitting until those outs are recorded. They can earn a 4th out if they hit a 425-foot plus home run. It used to be extra time. Now it's an extra out. I think this is going to change the home run derby significantly because players are going to be less likely to swing. I think the overall home run number is going to come down significantly. And I'm just shocked that they decided to opt for this as opposed to going back to the rule where there's no time limit and you get 10 outs. 4 outs and 3 minutes doesn't seem like a fair recipe for big home run totals and results, especially if they have a 40 home run limit. Not that there's many 40 home run rounds in the home run derby typically, but they only have 3 or 4 outs, which, with how players have been participating in the home run derby recently, they'd be done in 30 seconds with 4 outs. So it's going to be really interesting to see how baseball adapts. I think these rules are going to change again and again over the next couple of years until they kind of get the recipe where they want it. They just don't want to give the old time fans the old recipe back. So they're trying to concoct a brand new version that seems super original and super fun. The one part of this I really like, though, is that there's no seeding until the final 4. So if you do have 2 guys that put on a show in the first round, and some guy who just barely squeaks out a reasonable round to advance, you'll have the better home run hitter in the second round. So I do like that. I do think that the home run derby will be a lot of fun to watch. It's still, I think, the best all-star festivities of all 4 major sports, between the all-star game, the home run derby, the futures game, the draft, the celebrity softball game. There's a lot of fun stuff with the baseball all-star break, but the home run derby has changed, and I am predicting before it even starts that it will change again. Here at the Solo Shot Sports Podcast, we had to throw back down the third base line to this day in baseball history. And July 6th had a ton of reasonable choices for this day. There were some debuts. There were a ton of great games, a few historic pitching outings by greats like Walter Johnson. But we're coming up on the All-Star break, and I thought it was really fitting that on this date in 1933, the first ever All-Star game was held. And I think that we think that the All-Star game uh, is something that is relatively new. Uh, but the All-Star game has been played since 1933. There was a stretch of time where they were playing 2 All-Star games a year. But in 1933, at Comiskey Park, the AL and NL squared off in the first ever All-Star game. And there were tons of Hall of Famers that participated in that one. Uh, the likes of Chuck Klein and Paul Wainer and Lefty Gomez and Lefty Grove. But the big difference in the game was Babe Ruth, who ended up, no surprise, hitting a home run in the first ever All-Star game, which ended up being the difference. It was a 2-run home run off of, oh, geez, I lost the name, Bill Hallahan, who I had not heard of before reading this a little bit. Ended up being the difference in a 4-2 victory for the American League. Connie Mack managed the AL, and John McGraw came out of retirement to coach the National League in this first exhibition game. It was an absolute awesome sight to see, and we now still celebrate the Midsummer Classic to this day. From Babe Ruth to Shohei Ohtani, there's been eras and eras of All-Stars, different formats, different games, different moments. And it's truly one of the best things in sports. I know a lot of people don't really care about the game anymore. They focus too much on the uniforms, or that the game doesn't count for anything, or that now that there's interleague play, that seeing the AL and the NL has lost its luster. It's always meant something to me to watch the All-Star game and see these players, some of which only get this honor one time in their entire career. There's a laundry list of one-time All-Stars in baseball history. You have one-time All-Stars experiencing it all for the first and probably last time, and then there are legit Hall of Famers that are mentoring young guys, soaking it all in, and getting honored by the fans again. And it's been that way for decades now, almost a century. And I wouldn't have it any other way. The Major League Baseball All-Star Game is one of the best things there is in sports, and whether it be Babe Ruth or Shohei Ohtani, there's going to be so many great moments here. As we hear the reserves, there's going to be a lot of discourse about who was snubbed and who shouldn't have made it. I know these teams do have to fill their rosters up. They have to have 3 catchers. They have to have a player representing every single team, no matter how bad they are. But the All-Star game has so many things going right. And I think that it would be a big difference going forward. And I see you guys in the chat. You're talking about the jerseys too. I don't think the jerseys are great. They're trying to sell jerseys. That's the only reason why they make these new jerseys, is to sell them. I think there's been some years, like the one in San Diego, that the All-Star jerseys looked really cool. And I think that there's been some years where they're pretty lame. I'm okay if they go back to wearing their own team's uniforms and having some sort of All-Star related hat. But I think it's going to be really fun. And yes, I was actually going to tease that with the All-Star game, but they have not named the reserves yet. But Paul Skeens should start the All-Star game. And that's the reason why he's up there on your screen here as the National League representative. He has taken over the league by storm. In terms of number 1 overall picks through their first 10 starts, he is right up there with some of the all-time greats in terms of ERA through those starts. I believe he has a 2.32 ERA through 10 starts. He's been like a guy that's getting 8+ strikeouts a game and is, as a pitcher, dominating ticket sales and jersey sales and making the Pirates a much more relevant product. So I would love to see Paul Skeens start the All-Star game. And he had a great start again last night against the Mets, where the Pirates absolutely bullied the Mets off the field, scoring 14 runs in a total annihilation. But Paul Skeens is one of the greatest stars in the game. And that's what I'm talking about with the All-Star game's history is there's rookies like Paul Skeens that people expect to make dozens of other All-Star games. And then there's guys like last year, Elias Diaz made the All-Star team in his 30s or late 20s for the first time, won All-Star game MVP. He is having a good season actually this year, but he may never make the All-Star team again. And that's okay. He had his moment. He soaked it all in. And that's something that I'll remember from watching that game is that Elias Diaz had some clutch hits and won the MVP. But you'll have future stars that look like they're going to make a million, and you'll have one-off guys that are just enjoying the game, the kids' game that we all watch these guys play. And it's just a really great event that I hope that all of you tune into next weekend. Now, the first trade has been made. The cherry has been popped, as they say. Aaron Savale of the Tampa Bay Rays, who was acquired last year for a top prospect from the Guardians, was traded to the Brewers for a double-A middle infielder. Aaron Savale has had a really disappointing season. I was actually expecting the Rays to unlock him this year, but that never ended up really being the case. But Aaron Savale, reasonable contract, a guy who is going to pitch quality innings for a team in Milwaukee that is trying to fend off the Pirates, that is trying to fend off the Cardinals, who have been really hot, and even the Reds, who have been hot and cold. But I think that Aaron Savale, with his 5.18 ERA, a 2-6 record in Milwaukee, he's just going to be a guy that hopefully eats some innings. And I think that the Brewers getting in early before teams get more desperate, before we get closer to the deadline and the price goes up, and maybe Aaron Savale has a really good start for the Rays and ups his value, it'll be interesting to see what the pitcher market is going to be like. There's going to be tons of guys from low-end inning eaters like Savale all the way to legitimate difference makers like Garrett Crochet and Mason Miller, who have been talked about endlessly as needing big packages to be moved, but are available. So I hope that this trade opens the floodgates and that we don't have to wait until the last 48 hours or so for all the movement to happen. I know that a lot of people are worried with the current playoff format that teams are less likely to sell and that this deadline might be boring. But I think there's the proper combination of teams that are in it and talent that is available for contractual reasons or team performance reasons that it's going to be really exciting to see the names that can and will be moved at this deadline. And we'll be covering it right here on the podcast for all of you as we approach that trade deadline here at the end of the month. I appreciate you for spending part of your Solo Shot Saturday with me, Mookie, Will, Hugo, Scott, Orlando, everyone that was in the chat. I appreciate you. Hope you guys enjoy another great weekend of baseball, another fantastic week as we all get pumped up for the MLB All-Star festivities next week. Appreciate you. And remember to subscribe, like the video, and share it with a friend who enjoys the game of baseball as much as us. Peace.